Good morning.
Hi there, I heard you.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Let's see. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Is it readable or do I need to make it larger?
Nope, I can read it without my reading glasses.
Wonderful. Good. Okay. How many people are home today due to bad weather?
I'm home taking care of a grandchild since school is out.
Oh, well, that sounds kind of fun.
It is kind of fun.
Good. Good. Let's see.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Trying to see. You have a big meeting today. Am I the only brave soul that will turn their camera on this morning?
The camera on my home laptop has never worked. I'm not sure what the story is.
Mine doesn't either. I had to add an external camera actually onto my home laptop. It doesn't work either, and it's new.
Well, and I brought the camera from work home with me, thinking I might be home today with the child. And I plugged that in and it doesn't work on this computer either.
Oh, no.
So it's just something wrong with this. But I do have my video turned on so that I can see other people.
Oh, good.
It is nice to see other people, not just the 10 people that.
It is nice. Let me see.
Morning, Shannon and others.
Good morning.
Hey, Dan.
How's it going?
Forward. It's going. It's going.
Better than backward.
Yep, I've got my water and my hot chocolate ready, so let's do this.
So I was actually going to ask a member of the board if they would agree to monitor the chat during the meeting. I do a very poor job of doing that. Any takers?
I'll do it for you.
Is that Diane? Thank you, Diane.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much. I did remove the meeting room this time. I was proud of myself for remembering that.
Sorry, I'm having some audio issues, so I'm actually going to log off and come back on.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll be back. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. Whew. I'm good now.
Wonderful. I'm hoping we have more people connect in the next few minutes.
I mean, there are quite a few libraries that were closing today, but hopefully people are calling in somewhere.
I hope so. I really hoped for good attendance at today's meeting because of what's on the agenda.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello.
Let's see. Shannon, are you guys having a snow day?
We are. Well, an ice day.
Yeah, I have family who lives in the Boot Heel, and they say that it's the apocalypse right now.
Yeah, it's just a sheet of ice. Yeah.
Ugh.
So I'll apologize now if you hear loud teenagers or loud dogs. We're all home together.
I am sorry my camera doesn't work because you're missing seeing my cute granddaughter.
Aw, how old is she?
7, well, almost 7.
7? That's a fun age.
She's looking at all of you though and reading your names.
She
Hi,
probably
Leodin.
Steve said hi to you. She can't hear you though because I'm on a headset.
Aw.
Oh,
Put the headset on her. I want to say hi to her.
Okay.
Hi, Leodin. Can you hear me? Not sure. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Leodin. How are you?
Good.
Isabel misses you. She asked about you. Are you having a good snow week?
Yeah, is it okay if I talk to her?
Yeah, her mom's home with her today. If you want to call her mom's cell phone, you can talk to Isabel today. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll ask Grandma if we can call you.
Okay, don't call me. Call Ashley, her mom.
Oh, okay.
Okay, have a good day. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. I'm glad I can disrupt the meeting like that.
It was a
I
great
mean,
reception.
I
feel like
know.
we're good now. We could adjourn.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's been like 3 years since I've seen her, but man, she sounds so much older, Diane.
Well, she's 8 now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost 7. And
Uh-oh.
she's tall.
Oh, that's right. She's a year younger than my daughter. I forgot about that. I forgot. I
Yeah.
thought they were in the same grade. I keep on forgetting.
It's 10 o'clock now, but I think I'll wait for just a couple of minutes. We do have a pretty good turnout so far. So I'm excited for that. Anyone want to share some exciting news while we wait?
I wish I had exciting news.
Well, Poplar Bluff has exciting news. Our branch
Oh.
opened last week. Yay, Alice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Yeah, we were
Congratulations.
excited. Yeah.
I'm sure it was no big feat at all. I'm sure it just
It was
opened itself, right?
it was actually all in all a really smooth process. We were very pleased and exciting.
Sue sent me photos. It looks good.
Thank you. Yes, we're really pleased with it. And Jake said in chat that he's setting up his new 3D printer, Sculpto 2. Is that how you say that, Jake?
I haven't talked or seen Jake in, God, it's been forever, I feel like. Hi, Jake.
Jake said earlier he's keeping himself muted because they're doing fire alarm testing at his library this week or today. So he's going to only respond through chat.
Hope things are going well for Jake.
So we could all tell exciting stories, but we like yours because it's positive, exciting story.
Yeah, all scenic, exciting stories are horrible. People getting tossed out of the library by police and people getting COVID. I mean, we've got it's just horrendous. It's like a massacre here.
We're working on moving one of our branches right now. Actually, we're hoping to open in April. So we're moving our little Archie branch, if anyone's familiar with Cass.
A bigger building.
April Roy will be very happy. That's her hometown
April
branch.
Roy is ecstatic. Yeah, it's going to, so our current branch is 1,400 square feet with a wall that doesn't even go to the ceiling in the bathroom. It's very chic. And our new location will be 3,300 square feet with 2 full bathrooms and a meeting room. It's outrageous.
Wow.
Moving on
Moving
up.
on up, Dan. Moving on up.
Yep. The bathroom's actually big enough for a changing table, and staff don't have to like go into the bathroom to get into their closet where the microwave and mini fridge is. It's something else.
That is exciting.
That stuff is not going in the press release. So.
You used to go to the business next door when you needed to use the bathroom, right?
Well, the business next door was City Hall, and it flooded when our branch flooded, and they moved out. So there's nothing there now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, moving on up. That's for sure.
That is exciting.
Terry York says she visits Archie because she's got family there.
Well, hopefully the next time you visit, we'll have a new branch that you can go to right on Main Street. I'm pretty impressed with it. So, yeah.
Okay, well, it's 10:04 and it looks like we have a really good turnout today, so I'm really excited about that. I think we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. For the minutes, Rachel, do you need any help with any libraries or participants? Good. Okay, great. So in that case, I will ask if everyone's had a moment to review the minutes. If so, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
It's Kate Coleman. Thank you, Kate. Do we have a second?
I second.
Rebecca Payne, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, I hope everyone had an opportunity to see my email about the upgrade coming up. We have it penciled in for Wednesday, April 28th. We're going to version 3.6. That's the most recent stable version that's been released. It was released in October. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to see the email about the test server that's also currently available. So if you haven't had a chance to test the test server or to get your staff involved with that, I think Equinox shared with me that they really rely on libraries to test the test load before they move to, our production server over to the new version. So hopefully we have enough opportunity between now and April 28th to give them enough feedback. We find something that's not working quite right, we can let them know so that they can make adjustments. Their recommendation was to freeze migrations about 2 weeks before the upgrade and 2 weeks after. So I've kind of put in this migration freeze from April 12th through May 14th. And they do have us penciled in for a May upgrade every year moving forward. So hopefully we won't find ourselves in the same position where we're on such an outdated version. Fingers crossed. That's kind of where we are with that. I wanted to ask if anyone had any questions or feedback about the upgrade or concerns. No,
Did they say it was 3.6.2?
they didn't give me the last point, so I'm not sure where they're moving to with that.
Okay.
Is that where they're at now, Diane?
I think it was that's what I think it was. I've looked at the test server, but I forgot to check and see what the third digit was.
Yeah, they did not provide me with exactly what.
Well, that's unfortunate, actually, because I know when we originally the board approved several years ago, the idea of migrating to new versions, we always said, based on what Mobius had told us, we were never going to migrate to anything less than, say, 3.5.5, because it usually takes them a good 4 or 5 or 6 months to work out the bugs. So if we're going to 0.2, we potentially could have some things to deal with, but
They're not going that far up anymore, really. They're moving to a new version before I think 4 might be I mean 5 only went up to maybe 4.
Yeah.
So they're just waiting. They're not going that far up anymore.
Well, that's good to hear then. Things are different than they were, I guess. They used to go up to like 10 or they used to go up to like 10 or 11 even. Yeah.
No.
When we approved that originally, that was the case at least. So that's good to hear. That's good news then. That's good. Thanks, Kate and Diane.
Any other questions about the upcoming migration? As soon as
Really excited to see it coming.
As soon as I hear more from Equinox, I'll push that out to the membership immediately. So you'll know as soon as I do what the next steps are, or what their information is about that upgrade. Missouri Evergreen did present an RFP or respond to an RFP from Joplin Public Library. After that, they requested a demo. Equinox led the demo, and Missouri Evergreen Library sat in and offered some Missouri Evergreen specific information when the opportunity presented itself to contribute that to the demo. I think it went really well. We're looking into ways to provide an access to a demo version of Missouri Evergreen to libraries who are interested. We're trying to work that out with Equinox so that we can ensure patron privacy, yet still give interested libraries access to a demo environment. I don't have an exact answer on that, but I'm working on that. And then Scenic did a demo for St. James Library. I don't know if Scenic wants to provide any information on that demo.
The director came over and spent the morning with me and Ruth, our tech services manager, and he really liked the system. He's using a Follett thing now that's for schools, and he told me that there is no OPAC, so patrons cannot even place holds. So
my.
yes,
This would be a
commitment to him.
step up indeed. Steve, you're muted.
He did tell me that with the current fees, he can't afford to join the $2,000 or $1,940, whatever it would be. However, he said that he'd be keeping an eye open to see if the fees were to change today or this year. And that could change his decision. He said, I think he's paying $800 or $900 a year right now for Follett. And he said, if it got closer to the $1,000 mark or something like that, he'd probably be able to afford it. So there you go.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Or that's good to know when we're making decisions and moving forward. Also, Henry County has expressed interest. Their new director used to be at Marion County and was a part of Missouri Evergreen at that time. So she's really pro Missouri Evergreen. I believe it's Stephanie Rogers. Somebody correct me if I have the name wrong. She's asked that we do a presentation for the Board of Trustees on February 23rd about the benefits of joining Missouri Evergreen. So that's kind of the latest I have about interested libraries. Cape Girardeau's has been asking some really serious questions or showing serious interest, but they have not asked yet for a demo. So I plan to follow up with Katie Hill at Cape this week.
Yeah, Shannon, this is Steve. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think I emailed you too. They did request a demo. It's just a matter of scheduling it now. So they do want one.
Oh, good. Okay.
Although she said that she wants one just for her and her IT person. And she said, this is the early stages of the process, that what she wants to do is get very knowledgeable about Evergreen before presenting the idea to her board. So
Okay.
it's going to be kind of just a demo for her, really, it sounds like, and then she's going to need that information. So, but she still definitely wants one soon, she said.
Okay, great. So I'll reach out and see if we can get that scheduled. With Equinox did a really great job of doing the demo for Joplin, so I'll find out what her kind of questions are, so I know if that's a good fit or not. So the other thing I had to report on this morning is the 2021 meeting calendar. Everyone got a copy of that, and I tried to send out calendar invites to that. I wanted to mention when you have a changeover in staff, trying to be sure you keep your subscriptions to the Emmy discussion list up to date. I've had some feedback over the last few months that new directors didn't realize those discussion lists existed. They had taken recent positions with Missouri Evergreen Libraries. I think we've had some, changeover in circulation and cataloging staff. So just kind of a reminder that when you do have a changeover in staff, try to go in and subscribe your new staff members to those discussion lists, because we're really pushing out all information about Missouri Evergreen through those. And I know our committees are working really hard to deliver training materials and resources through those discussion lists. And the next thing is a call out for committee members. We would like to see some new representation on our Missouri Evergreen members, Missouri Evergreen committees. I have a Google form that I want to send out after today's meeting to the Missouri Evergreen discussion list and ask if there are any libraries and library staff members that would like to be a part of shaping Missouri Evergreen's future. I think we're at a really great place with Missouri Evergreen. I think we have a lot of I'm really
Shannon,
optimistic. Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. There's someone, I just got a call from someone from Putnam that's trying to get into the meeting.
I'm not sure why they're not in, because there's no waiting room.
Oh, she said she put in a waiting room password and
There's no waiting room this time, so I'm not sure.
okay, I'll
She
try
has the
to.
correct link. Do you mind to send the link to her again, Kate? I appreciate that. So I'm going to send that Google form out to the discussion list, and I'm going to ask our webmasters, Dan and Ron, who are both on the meeting, to post it to our Missouri Evergreen website. Is there any feedback on committee members? Have you guys had anyone received any information from libraries who would like to serve on some committees, or that I should reach out to? No? Okay. Hopefully we'll get some members to be engaged to that form and to come in and start participating with our committees, because I think we're at a great place to grow pretty quickly here, and I think we need more members involved to do that.
Hey,
And
Shannon, is there a way that, speaking of committees, I'm on the strategic planning committee right now for Missouri Evergreen. Is there a point at the meeting, do you think we'll have, if we have time to do that, I could give a short update on that, and then also request people complete a survey we have out right now for that?
absolutely.
Okay, just
Absolutely.
let me know. Well, let me know when. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, I was going to record this meeting and I forgot. I'm going to do it now. That's my next thing.
It shows that it's being recorded.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
Mhm.
Perfect. So I think that one of the ways I want to work toward getting members engaged and keeping members updated on what's going on with the Missouri Evergreen is by recording our general membership and committee meetings and then loading those on our new Missouri Evergreen YouTube channel. I know that there are some record retention law that kind of covers some of those recordings, and that it means we have to keep them indefinitely, and I'll do more research on that and continue to see what we need to do about meeting record retention law. But at this time, I have if you can see my screen, here's the new Missouri Evergreen YouTube channel. Kyle Constant from Trails has already loaded some reports training on here. We're going to try to, I think Kate Coleman's working really hard to get some cataloging training up on our YouTube channel. So we're going to start also putting our membership meetings and committee meetings here. So if there is a conflict and member libraries can't join our meeting times, they'll still be able to keep up to date with what's going on with Missouri Evergreen. Is there any comments or feedback on that?
So do you want us to start with our, what month is this? February. With the February meeting, recording those the
Please.
committee meetings this month?
Yes.
All right.
I thought about, my meeting was this past Monday and I thought about recording it and I didn't do it. So
That's okay.
darn.
That's okay. Any other feedback about recording meetings or the Missouri Evergreen YouTube channel?
No, I will be asking Dan and Ron, what do I do with it after I click record?
I would say that the best thing is to record it locally, and then we can upload the file directly to YouTube. Because if you record it on the cloud, it takes a few more steps to get it to our YouTube. So I would record it locally, and then.
And you mean, Dan, you mean locally, you mean onto the computer, it says, right?
Yes, sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that for Diane, because I know I've seen that prompt come up before.
Yes, record locally, so on your computer. And then once you do that, we will figure out the best way to get it uploaded, because we don't want to have the permissions for YouTube to just be like 50 people. So we'll figure it out. But for now, when you record your meeting, and this isn't just for Diane, this is for anyone, record it locally on your computer, and we will figure out how to get it onto YouTube and then link it on the Evergreen website.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any other discussion about recording meetings or concerns? No? Okay, so the last thing I have this morning is establishing a personnel committee. I know that sorry, I'm struggling with the right words here. I know that I think it's time that we hire at least a part-time cataloger from Missouri Evergreen. There may be other directions that we think we need to move. Missouri Evergreen's growing very quickly, and I think that we have a lot of potential growth in the future. And I think that we need to, what I would like to do is have a committee form and to look into, should we hire staff? what positions those, if we do hire staff, what positions do we need to hire first, a cataloger, a trainer, et cetera. What would the pay scale look like? Would that be remote workforce? Would they be stationed in someone's library? There's lots of questions to hammer out there. And so I think what I'd like to do is establish a committee to investigate that, and then to come back to the membership and let us move forward with what we need to do to grow in the direction that we're moving into.
Does that overlap with the strategic planning committee?
It
Yeah, I was
possibly
gonna-
may.
Yeah, I was going to say it definitely does. We have several questions on a survey that's out right now that is directly relevant to, staffing at Missouri Evergreen in terms of the consortium staffing. So we do have a lot of data on that would be relevant to that committee.
And I don't necessarily want to serve on this committee, but I would like to speak to the committee.
Well, and I guess I should say too, that if the committee comes to a point where they think the cataloging position is the position to hire for, they should consult with the Missouri Evergreen Cataloging Committee. I think that would be a natural part of that process. So do I have any volunteers that would like to serve on this committee?
Well, I'd be happy to be on it. This is Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
I think having somebody from our committee would make sense, because the strategic planning committee, because then we have all that data that from the members talking about what they're looking for. So I think that makes a lot of sense if I'm on there, at least to present that information to the committee.
Agreed. Any others, volunteers?
Shannon, this is Colleen. That's one committee I would like to be on.
Wonderful.
Colleen just wants to work with me. She just loves me so much.
Oh, yes, I do.
know. Thank you, Colleen. Any others?
Come on, people.
I know, not everybody at once.
This is a good chance for new people to get on a committee.
Agreed. This would be a great first committee for you to be on.
I'm looking through the list of people that are here.
Joellen says she'll do it.
Joellen. Thank you, Joellen.
And I'm glad to see Dana got on. Dana was the one that was trying to get into the meeting, and she looks like she successfully got on. Great.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Do we need more? I think we need more.
Yeah, that's 3. I'd like to have I'd really like to have at least 5.
I've never been on a committee with Emily Slamma before. Oh, Emily.
Yeah, sorry, I had to deal with an alarm going off at a branch. What is
Oh,
the
no. The committee is to determine if Missouri Evergreen needs personnel or staff, and if so, what they would be, how much they'd get paid, the job descriptions, et cetera, all the details about personnel if we need people.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
That Emily Slama, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emily.
You're
Then you
welcome.
got Joellen, right? She from
Yes,
the
I
chat.
do have Joellen.
Okay.
So I have 4 people, Steve Campbell, Colleen Knight, Joellen, and Emily. Looking for at least one more.
Right. Is this wrong that I go through the list and I just call people out? Is that rude? Is that bad? Hey, Rebecca Payne, you want to be on a committee with us? We love Rebecca.
I will do it if nobody else wants to.
No one else wants to.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Okay.
Rebecca.
You're welcome.
I have written it into my phone. I will send an email out right after
Is
this.
this so Steve, does this make every committee you're on now?
Oh, stop.
Just checking.
Not on the
His
circulation
voice.
committee.
That's
He's not
wonderful.
on my committee.
I'm not on
Yeah,
any catalog.
he's not on
I'm
my-
not on any standing committees at all. I'm only on these temporary committees.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay. So unless someone has more questions of me about
could
my
join,
report
Dan.
this morning. If not, I'll turn it over to Sue Lightfoot and Amigos and our financial report for the month. Is Sue Lightfoot on the call? No? How about Amigos? No? Okay. I'm not sure. I don't think Sue had an opportunity to send out our latest financial reports. If everyone can see my screen, this is as of January 31st, as provided by Amigos. This is our current balance sheet. And something I did want to point out is that rolling into our new fiscal year, which started September 1st, our reserve balance was $141,000. So right now we're standing at 280,000 after collecting this year's membership fees and paying out our year-to-date expenses. Let's see. This is a profit and loss statement. This is the other thing I wanted to show you was the budgets versus actuals. Ending January 31. So it looks like we've collected most of our revenues outside of a final payment on the FY21 grant. We still have quite a few outstanding expenses for the year, mainly to Amigos. We pay that quarterly. And then we've paid about half of our hosting and support fees to Equinox so far. They bill that in 2 payments. This remaining amount you see on migrations should cover the last 2 migrations we have in this fiscal year. We've migrated in 3 libraries and the grant covers 5. So we'll see if we can migrate in 2 more libraries by the time our fiscal year closes and that grant period closes. If not, we do have the opportunity to use this funding and maybe look at some special projects that we could use that LSTA funding for. So we have some options if for some reason we're not able to secure 2 libraries to migrate in before our fiscal year ends. Does anyone have questions about the financials here?
Shannon, this is Sue. I have a question.
Yes.
I realize that we might need to use this for special projects, but have we reached out to Missouri libraries to let them know that there are 2 more slots left for this year?
I was going to at least talk to the libraries that have expressed interest. I was actually going to do that. I have a follow-up to Joplin about their demo. I was going to mention it to Cape when I spoke to them about their demo. And then when we present to Henry County, that was on my agenda or part of my talking points for those 3 libraries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about the financials? I will also send those out after this meeting to the membership. I'm not sure that. Did those go up before the meeting, anyone? No? Okay, I'll send those out right after this meeting. Okay, well, if there's no discussion, we'll go ahead and move into committee reports. This month we have, I think, a pretty information or a big update from the Membership and Fees Committee. So I'll turn that over to Dan Brower as chair of that committee.
Hello, everybody. Over the past few months, the Membership and Fees Committee has been meeting to determine a new fee structure for the membership. Shannon sent out, along with the meeting, she sent out 2 documents, the fee proposal and the fee proposal overview and purpose narrative. I'm not going to read through that because it was sent out, but basically when we were charged with the task of restructuring fees, we wanted to balance out the burden of fees. Right now, our current fees are there's a larger burden on smaller libraries, and the thing with the state of Missouri is there are a lot of smaller libraries. And currently, like with the reserve and the fees, according to the fee schedule that Mobius had, most small libraries are paying around $1,939, and that does not include Marchive and Syndetics. With our new fee proposal, what we want to do is we want to lower the burden on smaller libraries, lowering those fees. Basically, we are proposing that we get rid of the separate reserves line, and we just have a, excuse me, we just have a flat base fee. And we also are proposing that if the library's budget is over the median budget of 300,000, that a 0.3% of the budget is added to the fees. Right now, our fees are based on circulation. This new fee structure would be based on budget. There's a couple of different reasons we went with this, but this year, most importantly, our circulation numbers are just erratic and small. I mean, some libraries may have been able to get close to previous years, but most likely not. So this would make it based on budget, so that it would also be less burdensome for the smaller libraries. So for example, our smallest libraries right now under our current fee structure are paying $1,939. Our proposal moves the base fee to $1,250. Most libraries will see that decrease in fees. It's like $689, I believe. And by doing that, we can also bolster our recruitment for smaller libraries. Like Steve mentioned earlier, St. James is interested, but he would really like the fee to be closer to $1,000. With this fee structure, this could be a benefit to that. We could recruit the smaller libraries, or libraries that have just been on the fence because they're looking at that and they're like, oh, that's $2,000 of my budget. And for some of our libraries, $2,000 is not a lot, but for a lot of our libraries, $2,000 is a big chunk of change. And so we're lowering the base fee, but we didn't want to have it too low because we see that there is value in having a consortium and having this borrowing. Most library circulation does go up after joining the consortium, and it allows their patrons access to many more materials, and they don't have to buy as many if they don't want to because they can borrow. Let's see. With this fee structure, we would basically bring in the same amount of money that we're bringing in right now. It just kind of shifts the burden of the fees onto larger libraries. I am at one of those larger libraries, and I realize that there is value in that and value in keeping the consortium strong. So did I cover everything? Steve, I'm looking at you.
You're doing a fantastic job, Dan. A fantastic job. You really are.
Great. So
I don't remember what else is in the narrative that I have in front of me. So whatever's in there is what people needed to hear, I guess. I don't know.
let's see. Let me go through there. Yep. Oh, and then so the elimination of the designated reserve funds. I should mention about that because we did get rid of that. So the proposed fee schedule eliminates that designated amount each member must contribute. It was kind of uneven because you had libraries like Seymour paying $1,000 in reserve, and then you had libraries like Jefferson County paying $1,000 in reserve. With our proposed fee schedule, we want to reserve a certain percentage of their fees paid. So part of their fees paid will go to a designated development fund. And this development fund, for which there's a draft policy to approve in here too, would go towards special projects. If we need app updates, other consortium across the country and across the world have something like this where they set aside a certain amount every year, and they create modules in Evergreen, like the curbside module. I forget which consortium did that, but they funded that almost completely. So that's just kind of, it's kind of a thing that happens, and we think that that would be good for us. We could have money in reserves that we could improve our consortium and maybe even the Evergreen community at large.
So Dan, this is Robin at the State
Yeah.
Library. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. We met with Shannon earlier this week, and so I'm going to throw out an, I don't know, an alternative, but something for the membership to think about. One of the things that we've really been focused on here is how we at the State Library can really help those smaller libraries make sure that they're going to be able to afford to be a member of Missouri Evergreen. We have looked at data, and this is completely different from what your fee structure and what you're presenting, but we're wondering, or we've been thinking about looking at the grant differently and how we provide the funds for the grant. And we're tossing around the idea that where we would subsidize a certain percentage of the fees, the total fees, when we figure out what it truly costs for a library to join, not the migration cost, but what their fees are going to be, let's say, for example, those smallest libraries, those libraries whose budgets are under 100,000, and there's 5 that are members of Missouri Evergreen right now, that maybe we would subsidize 80% of their fee. So if the fee was $12.50, we would subsidize 1,000 of that, and they would pay $250, and that would go to 70% subsidy. And now this is not, I'm not saying for sure this is what we're going to do, but this is truly what we're looking at and what we could afford to do when we look at the grant, that those whose budgets are between 100 and 200,000, we would subsidize 70% of the fee. 230%, we would subsidize 50% of the fee. And then overall, we would pick up a percentage, say, for example, 25% of the total Evergreen hosting fee. Now, that's something we would have to work with the treasurer and work with the board, and of course, work with you as you're looking at this to see if how that impacts everybody, and if that's something that we would want to go to. But we've been thinking about the grant differently. The other thing we've been thinking about is in the grant right now, there is a estimate of what it costs to migrate. So we estimate 5 libraries at $20,000. Well, what like, for example, this year, what's happening is then we're not going to get potentially going to get 5 libraries. And so there's this additional funds. And then the board has to come up with a special project potentially for us to kind of fill in. We don't want to give money back, or we don't want there to be an underspend. What we want is, for whatever the grant is, we want to give you all that. We want all the money to go to Missouri Evergreen.
I agree.
The other part of this would be that when libraries migrate, they write, and we'll make it very simple, they write a grant to us to pay for that migration fee. And it would also then, what this allows them to do is to also then include their staff time, the buying of barcode readers, anything additional than the actual straight up migration fee that they could then also include in the grant. And so then that allows, every year as you're writing the grant, for you to be, for the whole group to be forward thinking and what they're thinking about a special project is. And then we're not getting into April and saying, oops, we're not going to make 5 migrations. Let's try to come up with something to spend those additional fees. And I know this is probably a discussion we should have had at a different time because you're trying to vote on this, but I just want the whole membership to know that we want to look at ways that we can adapt the way that we've written the grant that truly would allow those small member libraries to take out some of those barriers, because we know there's a barrier in addition to what the fee is going to be. There's a barrier to migrate, and it's beyond just the actual migration, that there are additional costs that aren't necessarily covered that they have to come up with. So I don't know how this is going to affect the voting on the structure, but I and Shannon and I had this conversation. I just want you to know that that's sort of how our thinking and our philosophy is, and we can develop this more because it's about time to write the grant. I think they're looking at that right now. So anyway, that's the state library stance when it comes to thinking about how to help the smaller libraries become members of Missouri Evergreen.
Okay, thank you, Robin. That is very good news and very good information to have. Speaking of grant funding for the state library, there is a portion of the fees proposal and explanation that we wanted to have a structure in place in case something happened and LSTA funds or state library grant funding fell out. And so we did have, it's the 3rd chart on the proposal document, and it would basically involve everyone's fees going up like 65%, but all signs point to that not happening. That would be very hard to maintain, but I guess for the purposes of this meeting, the membership and fees committee is proposing the current fee structure, and we are also there are also 2 other policies that I can talk about. Do we want to talk about this first and then I'll talk about the other policies?
Well, this is Steve.
Hi, Steve.
In light of what Robin just said, I feel like we should just scrap all this. Maybe. I don't know how we can. Well, I mean, I know we put a lot of work into this, but we were doing it without all the information apparently. And I trust me, I don't want to do that because I spent 2 days writing that narrative. But at the same time, if we approve, I don't know. I guess I just don't. I mean, well, I don't know how this all changes in light of what she just said. I feel like we kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure how that affects I don't know why we would go ahead and do this if the state library is going to change their approach toward funding this.
I think the document is helpful to us. I don't want you to think there was a complete waste of time, because when we read the document,
I feel like it was a complete waste of time.
It was us reading the document that. So I'm helping Dan to feel better, because what y'all created really helped us really think about how we want to change how we're doing the funding. So it's not a waste. It was the catalyst to how we want to think about doing this. So I hope that makes you feel a little bit better, Dan.
I'm not sure it makes us feel too much better, actually. But
again, this all goes into as the grant is being written. And again, I think that we'll have to work in those increases, and the projected base fee and the increases, and how you want to do the developmental fund. I think that there's other things that need to be considered, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to, after this meeting, to really hash out exactly what this is going to look like. We still got numbers to crunch, just to make sure this is all still going to work. But certainly that's how we're. And Debbie she's fantastic. In fact, she's probably already crunched all of the numbers and has already determined this is, we're going to be able to do something very, it's that percentage. What we're looking at is that total percentage of Evergreen's hosting fees, what percentage that would be, whether it's a 25% of the overall hosting fees, 30%. We're looking at that. And then, so one of the things that I think Shannon is getting, or someone is getting from Equinox, is how they determine what the overall hosting fees are. Is it based on library service area? Is it based on number of libraries? Sort of. There's some things we need to know about how Equinox is billing you as we break things out to figure out how.
Hosting fees are based on the number of branches each location has.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. And that is one important piece that I did skip over. Yes. So like Scenic has 10 branches. So nine. Sorry. So they charge that based on the number of locations. Cass County has 6. So we're charged based on that. And
but it's also CERC. It's CERC plus that, plus a fee for branches, isn't it?
No, I don't believe they charge for CERC. What they charge for on migrations is number of MARC records, number of patrons. But
it can't just be strictly based. It can't just be strictly based on branches, because if that was the case, then Riverside Regional and my library would be paying the same, and we're obviously not, and they're significantly different in size.
You're paying the same to Missouri Evergreen, but not Equinox charges it different.
No, we're not paying.
And it's different from what Mobius had previously charged, and that's where we wound up with this.
But Colleen, what I'm saying is we're not paying the same to Missouri Evergreen. They're paying half what we are, but I can't imagine Equinox.
They're not based on Equinox's fees right now.
So you're telling me that according to Equinox, us and say a library like Riverside Regional would be paying the same?
It would be based on how many branches are in each location. So Polk County would be I think it's $1,000 a branch, but I could be.
So if a library like St. Charles County with a $30 million budget and CERC of millions a year joined, they'd be paying the same as we would which is a tenth of the size because we have the same number of branches.
Hang on. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
So the hosting fee,
I think I have it on screen here.
I saw that it said
Yeah.
$1,000
Per
per
outlet.
outlet.
But that's not the,
Equinox
Right.
pricing document. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's an annual fee, which is
yeah, I
that's
think
where
there's
the,
a fee on top of that they do base on. Because when we asked them for an independent quote, just for ourselves, it was circulation plus the number of locations. It wasn't only the number of locations. Because that's the case, a library like St. Charles County, if they were ever joined, they'd be paying nothing, virtually nothing.
The Equinox, but to us, because we have the 0.3%.
Sure, but how is Equinox, how are they going to, I mean, that doesn't make any sense from a business standpoint for them,
That's
that
true.
they would clearly have a lot more support needs than we would, or a smaller library would.
That's an migrate. I think they based the original on, you're right, a combination of circulation and mark records, and then $1,000 per branch after that.
I thought that's what you had originally told us, Colleen. I'm just
Yeah,
going by what you had said.
I'm trying to remember. That was a year
Yeah.
and a half ago. I
Sure,
saw.
yeah.
I think that's about migration and implementation. But once you are migrated in and then after that, it's 1,000 per outlet per year.
We're paying more than, well, we're definitely paying more than that. I mean, not a lot more, but we are paying more than that. Well, of course, we're based that on Evergreen fees, but I just can't imagine that they're going to charge just strictly based on the number of branches. If that was the case, then that means every small library with one location is just paying $1,000.
do you know how many locations you have? Not just, okay, with branches?
I don't.
Okay.
When we sent in the RFP 2 years ago, it was 128. Of course, we've since migrated 8 libraries since then.
And that
And
136?
several of those have had, like Barry Lawrence has many branches. And I think Oregon County did too. But some of them just had the one branch.
I guess ultimately it doesn't matter, I guess.
Well, that's going to matter to us as we look at the grant. I mean, we're going to
Sure.
want to know what Equinox is charging per.
Well, here's a question for you, Robin, then. So these fees, the new fees we had proposed, were going to go into effect when, Dan? September, you said?
It would have been with our fiscal year 22, and that starts in, is that September or October? September.
So
September
the
1.
hope of this was to implement new fees that were lower for the smaller libraries for September, so that we could continue adding new members, because we've kind of got to a point where we're starting to slow down in terms of the number of libraries that are interested in joining. And part of that is what Dan said, half the libraries in the state are small libraries, and a lot of them can't afford to join with the $2,000+ fees. So if we wait and don't approve this and wait for the state library to come up with their new plan, is that going to be able to be implemented by September? Because that's otherwise
It'll be implemented when we award the grant.
Which is when?
Are you working on the grant right now, Colleen?
The grant, because we did it weird last year, ran from July 1st to the end of September of this year, or the beginning of September. So at this moment, I'm just working on an interim report.
Yeah.
So the new grant starts at September, I guess, or
September is when the grant should start.
Okay.
So no, at this moment, I'm not working on the grant. That's too far away.
I hate doing this because it hurts me, because like I said, I spent so much time writing that stupid narrative, but I feel like, my vote
It was not stupid.
Well, my vote would be the
narrative.
Well,
it was a very good narrative.
I don't mean stupid that way. I mean stupid that it's going to all be different maybe now. So my vote would be, I would really advocate that, and I have a lot of vested interest in this, obviously. I would advocate for holding off on even proposing this, because I feel like it could change dramatically based on what Robin decides and the state library decides here coming soon. That's just me, though.
I would agree with Steve on that. I don't think there's a reason to vote on this right now if the grant is going to change in September. I think maybe we need to sit down and figure out with the state library what they think they could do that might be better to help those small libraries, and then decide if that's the way to go this year or if we need to go ahead and vote on this.
What does Robin think?
Well, Robin thinks that what I would like to do is after this meeting, is get together with probably those who worked on the fee schedule and then also members of the board, and we go through and think about. I'm hoping, who's going to write the grant? Colleen, you going to write the grant again?
I assume I am, but
Okay,
if somebody
good.
wants to take it over, I'd be happy to. That's
Because you've done it enough now. It's like as long as you're
yeah, I'm fine with
around
that.
that maybe Colleen, we can talk and think, because it is going to have to be written differently, because again with the
Yeah.
migration part of it, I just think that's a better way to go, to pay for those migrations per library for sure. And then as we help you write the grant, we'll put this fee structure out in the grant as well. So to answer your question, Steve, I would wait on this. I don't see a reason to go ahead and vote on this right now. And we would know really quickly. I don't know. Debbie, help me out here. I can't, there's really no reason. There's really no reason for them to write this now, and as we're working on what this next grant's going to look like.
Well, part of the issue is if we don't know what the smaller libraries' fees are, then we don't know amount to subsidize.
Yep, that is something we have to find out from Equinox. We need to know what Equinox, what the fees are for everything. And I know that it looks like it's $1,000 per unit. And then what the additional would go for. Because I know that there were some additional things that went to Equinox this last year for some libraries who did Marchive and some other things. So it's really getting that raw data as to truly what Equinox is charging for each of the libraries. Not what Missouri Evergreen is charging, but what Equinox is charging.
Mhm.
Well, if they're charging me only $9,000, I'm going to think they've lost their minds, but that's good to know, I guess.
If they're charging you only $9,000?
Yeah, I mean, that seems, I can't go to another ILS like Cersei for under 50 grand, and to think that they're going to charge me 12 and a small library 1,000, that's just, that doesn't make much business sense for them. But I guess if that's what they want to do, but it's just weird to me.
It was $1,000 plus, then they have a built-in increase like we were doing. I think it's 2% a year. So at this point would be year 3. So what's $1,000 times 4%?
1,040. Yeah.
Thank you. My math's not there.
Oh, that's okay. No, I think that, didn't you tell us it was a 3% increase a year? I thought
It may be 3.
Yeah.
I'll
I
have
don't know,
to
it
look
doesn't
at the
matter.
documents again.
Yeah,
Either way,
let's
it's low.
pull the budget back up. I see 121. So the Evergreen fees are 121, which makes sense if Shannon said there's 100 or Colleen, there's 121 units.
That's the revenue that Missouri Evergreen's collecting in membership.
Yeah, go back up to.
This is the amount we're paying for hosting and
Hosting and
support.
support 157, which it'd be about right because it was $1,000 at 128 units. And now we've got 9 more libraries, and some of them with multiple branches.
Like Barry Lawrence.
Yeah, with Barry Lawrence, and then with Oregon County
Mm-hmm.
around Alton, I think they had 5 or 6. And then their normal increases per year. So that would be about right.
Yeah.
All right, well then we will table the new fee structure proposal. What about the other 2 policies Well, I guess I guess the reserve funds policy and the development fund policy, um, does this affect
Well,
those or?
see, the whole problem with this also, not that it's not that we shouldn't still, like I said, I think tabling still the best choice. The problem is, I mean, all the other, yeah, everything was really kind of hinged on the fee structure, including even the cataloging position. If the personnel committee starts discussing that, because that was based on reserve funds that were available based on the current fee structure. So if that and the new fee structure. So if that's all being changed, we can't do anything with that position until we find out what the new fees are going to be for the next year, and if the money will be available with the new fees.
Could I interrupt for a second? And I'd like to back up to the proposal that you all have before us on a new fee structure and what Robin has said in terms of grants. I think regardless going forward that the membership should support the idea that we should make Missouri Evergreen more accessible to smaller libraries in order to serve more citizens in the state. And I think that that's what's coming out of this, is that if we need an endorsement of those principles.
This is Terry. I would just like to say that I think the structure of everything you developed is great. I would like to know, is there anyone who objects to it, so that when you were going forward, you have some feedback right now from everyone on the meeting? Are you in favor? Is there any way with any strong objection that you need to know when you're taking this back to look at it again?
Well, I don't know about that, because now it could be totally different. I mean, it's going to be it sounds like it's going to be totally different. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the most dramatic thing we did was we based it on budget versus locations or circulation or anything else that we had previously, or Equinox currently bases it on. So I guess that's something that would be interesting to get an endorsement from on the board, was that we talked about changing the entire the way the fees were structured and basing it on budget versus other factors. I guess that is something that would be helpful when we meet with Robin and decide to revamp things based on the new grant, whether that's something someone wants to entertain, or if the membership's supportive of that. Our whole premise going into this, as Dan mentioned, was that we felt like there was with the current Evergreen fees, there was the smaller libraries are being disproportionately charged compared to the larger libraries. Like, he went into details on that. They were paying $1,000 for reserves, and my library is paying $1,000 for reserves, which distorts their fees tremendously. We were wanting to base it on budget, because budget was the number one factor on whether a library could afford to join or not. So that's what we decided to change that to. If everybody is not supportive of that idea, who's not on the committee, then this is the time to probably tell us before we go ahead and revamp things again.
And I think that's fabulous in the structure that you did. I just would like to know if any of those larger libraries, or any of those that maybe a mid-sized library that happens to be fortunate to have a larger budget, are okay with shouldering a little more of that load.
Well, Terry, that's a good question. And I think I can answer that, because Tony Benningfield, who's the new director at Jefferson County, and my library and Dan's library are the three largest in terms of budget size now. And we were all on the committee, and we all thought it was fine. We were willing.
And Rachel was on the committee.
And Rachel was on the committee
too. Yeah.
And we were all willing to shoulder that extra burden. Only I think 12 or 13 of the libraries were going to see a fee increase. My library is going to see the largest fee increase. I think we're going up 70%. And my logic, as we mentioned in the narrative, was if I migrated to any other system than Evergreen, I'd be paying triple or quadruple what I'm paying right now. There's no way I can get, even without the resource sharing, there's no way I can get what I'm getting through Evergreen plus the resource sharing for $12,000 a year, which is a ridiculously low amount of money for my library. But $1,000 or $2,000 for a library with a budget of $100,000 is not a ridiculously low number for them. So my fees were going to go up under this plan to $21,000. We were going to eat basically $8,000 or $9,000 extra in fees a year, and that's still worth it. When I looked at what it cost us to join Mobius, it would be over $80,000 a year to join Mobius, which is the only other resource resource sharing consortium in the state. So to me, while I don't want to pay $8,000 or $9,000 more, to be able to get another 20 small, tiny libraries to join, it would be worth it to me to take that burden from my library, because then we have access to more materials from those new library members. And it's not really, in the scheme of things, $8,000 or $9,000 is not going to kill us, whereas it is going to make a big difference to the smaller libraries that are involved.
I agree. In fact, I had a staff member who saw the list this morning and was like, oh my gosh, can these large libraries? And I said they would be paying so much more if they were out on their own for their system than what this is. So yeah, I think that's,
I mean, granted, Evergreen's not Cersei or III or whatever that system is that Mobius uses. I mean, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's not as robust as that system. So, I mean, you are getting, in my opinion, a inferior product. Not that Evergreen's horrible, but it is inferior to a lot of those systems, as we know with the reporting module and things like that. However, it's still, for my size library, which we're a medium-sized library, it's still a good enough system for what we need it for. So yeah, sure, if I spent more money for that, I would be getting a much better system, but I'm getting the resource sharing though, like we talked about.
I'd like to jump in there and just say, this is Rebecca from Stone County. Looking at the fee structure, we are one of those libraries that, you know, service wise, we're fairly small, but our budget is good. So our fees would increase. I think it was around $1,200 a year. And I don't have a problem paying for that because it's still keeping it relatively reasonable. I think it was a little over $3,000 a year for us, with the new structure. And it's totally worth it just because of the CERC numbers and the resource sharing.
So can we, after we spoke on Monday, I thought that, I saw messages in chat here. I was just going to ask, can Shannon take an informal vote on whether or not the membership is in favor of basing this on budget versus other factors, circulation or whatever, you know?
Yes. All those in favor of moving it to a budget? Is there anyone opposed to moving it to a budget? Let's do it that way.
I have a quick question before we do this. Where did the budget figures come from?
The public library survey published on the Missouri State Library website.
They're a little outdated, Ron. It's the newest ones that are available. Like, for example, it shows our budget at 5.4 million. Well, ours is actually 5.8. It's from a couple of years ago. So, I mean, it is going to be behind for everybody, I think.
My budget is way off. It's off by about $100,000.
Oh, wow.
Well, is it using annual expenditures, total expenditures? Is that where it's coming from off the survey?
I didn't put it together, but I think it was revenue. Dan, was it?
Yes.
Total revenue.
So if you have a library, that is probably our budget when we had a $100,000 gift given to us from a former board president. That's not our.
Oh, that would explain that thing. Well, it's still going to show that for that 1 year, but yeah, you're right. Once that change, and we talked about that actually in terms of gifts, and we didn't know that, Ron, with yours, but we talked about like with, I don't know, like Livingston County and other libraries that received really large gifts, and well, maybe not Livingston County, I don't know how they work theirs, but there were some libraries that received a really big gift and it really dramatically impacted their budget for 1 year. And we asked whether we were going to include that figure in their fees for that year, and we said no, but we were unaware that that was the case in your library situation. Overall, it's not going to change the scheme of things that dramatically, but just so you know, if we were to base it on budget, the committee all agreed we would not be including things like a couple $100,000 gift 1 year that drastically alters a small library's budget. We were not going to include that.
I didn't know if this was something that was just a fluke for my library or if it was something that affected everybody, but I thought that'd be a good question to ask before we did vote.
Well, hopefully I answered it for you.
Yeah. I mean, even with the inflated budget, my rates are not out of line with what we can pay. I just was wanting some clarification where that figure came from. So thank you for that.
Any other questions about moving to a budget-based versus CERC-based fee structure? if not, I'll just ask, are there any libraries opposed to making that move? No? Are there any other questions about tabling it to later in the process? Will we find out exactly where we're moving with grant funding in that structure?
There's some talk in the questions in the chat that make it look like there's a question about whether deciding if we can afford a cataloger should come before or after deciding what the fee structure is going to be.
So I think the idea was that we would decide on a fee structure today, and then the personnel committee would know what that structure looked like so that they could start moving toward what possible a personnel for Missouri Evergreen would look like. But now that we're reevaluating what the fee structure will look like, we will wait on probably on how we'll move forward with personnel until we make some other decisions about funding and revenues and fees.
Pam Withrow just posted in there, I think attracting small libraries is great, but we definitely need to, get a cataloger. I'm the biggest proponent there is of getting a cataloger. And so I totally agree with that, but you can't hire somebody if you don't know how much money you're going to have. And so I think we need to see I think we will still have one this year, hopefully, if the committee decides that, the personnel committee. That would be my vote for sure. But I think that we just need to find how much money we're going to have first. And we hopefully, after talking to Robin, within the next couple months, we'll have an idea. It's going to be a process to hire someone, even if we wanted to right now today decide to do it, because we have to write a job description up. We need to decide, a lot of different factors. Are they going to work from home? Are they going to work at a library? Who's going to train them? I mean, there's so many different factors. There's going to be a professional cataloger, a paraprofessional. So I think it's going to take us time regardless. So while the personnel committee hashes that stuff out, salary, things like that, the board can be working with Robin on deciding what the fees are going to look like in the fall and how much money we'll have. And by the time the personnel committee gets done with their work, hopefully those two things will come together at the same time and the board can vote on a proposal from the personnel committee, and that will be supported by the new budget figures.
And Steve, I just want to make it clear that our intent would be that there would be a percentage of hosting for everyone. So there was going to be a subsidy, so to speak, for everyone. But we won't get into your developmental fund. There won't be anything that we would provide for that, of course. I mean, the reserves are all on your own and always have been. So those are the two areas that, and I can't remember exactly on the developmental fund where you were working in the percentage for libraries on what that is, but
we want to put about, I think, 5.5% of each library's fees toward that. I think the goal was to put about 10 grand a year toward that until we got 50 grand to do. If we ever needed to do development, we'd have that money then, or we definitely need to do some development, because I think based on what I'm seeing from the survey results from the strategic planning committee, everyone hates our reporting module, and I think that needs to be developed for sure.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that, and Shannon, you might talk about this, that you saw as a use for some of the additional funds that you're going to have left over this year, was something about the reporting module. There might have been an enhancement that you could add to the reporting module, correct?
Yes, when we've spoken, if we're not able to secure 2 new libraries to migrate in, then we could redirect those LSTA funds toward possible development. And then that's what I shared with Robin, is the results of the preliminary results of the survey show reporting is maybe the weakest module according to our Missouri Evergreen members. And there are some, I'm well aware of some add-on modules available for Evergreen that makes the reports module easier to use. And so my first thought was maybe we could direct those funds toward that, since that's the thing the membership is least satisfied with according to our first round of surveys. Okay. Well, then we will come back after we revisit with the state library and we look at what the grant will look like in FY22 and revisit this.
Can I ask Robin a real quick question? Robin, with this money that you're thinking about subsidizing, how many years would that be guaranteed if it actually happens? You're on mute, Robin. Robin, you're on mute. Oh, there we go.
But you can see my mouth moving. I mean, you can't. It's just a different way is that we're looking at the way that we're paying for the grants. I was, are you asking, do we ever have any intent of there to be a sunset to our support of Evergreen? There's not. I mean, in all of it, but there's always we always know this. We always have to keep this in our mind that LSTA funds could go away or LSTA funds could be cut or things like that can happen. But this is not that we're thinking, oh, we're only going to do this, this particular for a certain number of years. I mean, certainly it's not our intent that we're going to start something and then pull the rug out from under you at some point in the future. That's not what we're looking at doing. What would change is potentially right now it's 80% for those small libraries. So one year may end up having to be 75%. But every year when you write a grant, there's always the opportunity that the funding's not going to be there or there's something we're going to have to change. So that part of it necessarily hasn't changed.
Steve Campbell's asking in the chat, how many years the LSTA grant would be for?
LSTA grants are written every year.
Yeah.
We can't allocate funds that we don't have yet. So we get the funds every year, and so so the grant has to be written every year.
Thank you, Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll revisit this in the future. And that leads it to Kate with the cataloging committee.
May I interrupt for a second? Just
Sure.
to, me, the parliamentarian. Are you saying you're going to table this item or are you going to dismiss this item?
I think it'll be tabled.
Then you need a motion to table.
Okay. Do we have a motion to table?
So moved.
I'll second it, Steve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay. Now, Kate Coleman with the cataloging committee. Also, thank you, Steve, for reminding us of that.
I get to follow Dan's sad face. All right. Oh, thanks, Dan. The smile is nice. Okay. So there's only one thing on the agenda that I'm going to talk about, but I do have a handful of things that I'm going to talk about. So first and foremost, the ISBN deduplication debrief. So as of right now, we have exhausted all avenues for batch fixing items that were mismerged. We're now on a case-by-case basis for fixing these items. The two major issues that came out of this dedupe were a lot of children's series that had the series title in the title field. They merged together. The cataloging community is making a concerted effort to get these fixed. I do realize a lot of emails are coming to the listserv regarding these items. I don't find it much different than what it was before when we were separating ISBNs. We were sending emails all the time. So this kind of just falls right in line with that. It's just been replaced with this problem. It is for your library's benefit to check the items that are being sent on the listserv. Please just check to make sure that if you have holdings that you're checking those holdings, because it's very likely if someone else's library, it was merged, then of course those 2 or 3 or 4 bib records did merge. So there's a good chance that if someone else's item moved onto a different record than yours did too. So if you see an email come across, just go ahead and check to see if you have any holdings, because I used to go holding by holding and email only those people that had holdings on it anymore, but we don't have time to do that anymore. We're just sending it to the listserv in general. So please go ahead and check your items. And then a Google spreadsheet was put together by Lisa at Heartland. I sent that out yesterday to kind of help streamline a library's ability to check up on these items that are emailed about. I know, guys, this is a mess, but you know, we're doing what we can. It is what it is. So that was the first problem, the series that were merged together. The other problem is the AV records, namely the TV series with the holds issue. Diane at Scenic has described it my favorite way so far in plain terms. She says the problem isn't that holds are skating from one record to another. The problem is that complete set holds skate to other records that offer complete sets. And I'm using complete set as a part example. It could be disk one that moved on to another disk one, that type of thing. But complete set, of course, is what we use the most often. So that's a good example. Instructions were put together by Nate at Trails that were sent out for how to deal with this problem as you run across it. If you don't have permissions in your Missouri Evergreen, log on to do those things, send it to a cataloger, or get that situation remedied, because I'm hopeful for this issue that it will eventually get solved, because there's a foreseeable end, I feel like, for this one. So any questions about this problem and our ways that we're trying to fix it? All right, so I just wanted to update the board and membership that the cataloging committee has 4 main projects that we are working on right now. The Missouri Evergreen cataloging best practices, general cataloging training documents, guidelines to assess incoming libraries catalogs, and then our Missouri Evergreen certified cataloger certification. These things are high on our priority list, but we have very few cataloging members. So it's hard. And I know Shannon put out a call for committee members earlier. If you're interested, shoot me an email. We do have certain things we have to assess and consider with appointing cataloging committee members. But we are definitely looking to add more people to our committee. 4 people is not enough. And then I am leaving everybody with 3 reminders. The new cataloging policy adopted this past December stipulates that every Missouri Evergreen library has to have a representative at a cataloging meeting at least once a quarter. A reminder note will be going out to libraries that haven't been present yet at cataloging meetings. We are keeping track of this. It is so important for catalogers to be a participating voice in our consortium. The catalog, it touches everything in librarianship. So we have to have participation from libraries. So the board backed us up in writing this into our policy, and we are going to be following up with it. So libraries will be getting an email that they have one more meeting this quarter to come join us. This next reminder is something that I tell catalogers at every cataloging meeting, and I will continue to tell it at every cataloging meeting forever. We have a shared consortium catalog. This means that no record belongs to a library. It doesn't matter who uploaded it, who edited it last. If the bib record's in poor shape, if you know exactly who put in a bad bib record, that does not matter. If there is a record in our catalog, it is each library's responsibility to get that bib record in a shape where any library could join or could put their holdings on it. This is a shared consortium library. Records belong to every single one of us. And then, like Shannon also mentioned earlier, the test server, it's up and running. Please go practice on it. The cataloging module is absolutely the most changed module in our upgrade. It is very different. Please go look at it. Please practice. Please email us with any questions you have. I'm very excited for the upgrade. I feel like the cataloging module and searching in Evergreen, the upgraded Evergreen, is really cool. I'm really looking forward to it, but it's super different. So it's going to benefit everybody to go take a look at it and practice with it. Anybody have any cataloging questions for me? This was much better than the last 2 membership meetings where we talked about cataloging things for like an hour and a half each one of those. So I feel like I did pretty good.
You did great, Kate. Thank you. I did include the Zoom meeting link to the cataloging meetings in the agenda and the meeting dates and times. I hope I have them right, Kate. Because I really do think
I'm glad you mentioned that. Am I mute? Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because anybody that was in my cataloging meeting this past week knows that I had a bit of an issue. So that meeting room might change. So just please look out on the listserv for connection information.
Okay. Any questions for Kate about the dedupe or about where we're moving with cataloging? No, then I'll ask Diane Deespro to talk about the circulation policy revision.
Good morning. I will say about the catalog that, yeah, there are still some issues, but it is very nice to do a catalog search and find 2 pages of results instead of 4 pages of results. It's very nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Diane, for saying that because it really was a success, even though some issues came out of it. It was a success.
Yes. And we noticed that on the circulation side, and I'm sure patrons notice it. They just don't call me to tell me how wonderful it is. And Kate talked about the upgrade as well. I'm going to make notes on the circulation changes that have been made and send it out to on the circulation listserv. I can't promise you when that'll be done, but it'll be done before plenty of time for everybody to get a chance to look at that and look at the test server as well. Before I get to the policy, one other thing came out of the January Circulation Committee meeting that I want to get approval for from this group. When placing a hold on a DVD series that has parts, if a library has a record, has an item on that record and that does not have parts, there will be an option for choose parts when placing the hold. Patrons have no idea what that means, and I tell staff, but you know, somebody that only works 14 hours a week is not going to remember that choose parts means you're selecting the item on the record that does not have a part. It's kind of nonsensical. Anyway, we propose changing those words, choose parts, to no part specified. I would hope that it would at least look to someone placing a hold like, I don't even want to go there because I have no idea what this means. And instead, somebody will choose complete set, season 2, disc 1, whatever the other options are. Does anybody have any adverse feelings towards changing choose parts to no part specified? Nothing. Do we need to vote on this, or is it just, I'll just ask Equinox to change it for us?
I think it's fine just to ask Equinox to change it, Diane.
Wonderful. Then that's what I'll do. Okay, then have been tweaking the circulation policy. This seems to be an ongoing process. So we all just need to understand this is never going to be a done deal, and we won't revisit it for 10 years. The circulation committee revisited the circulation policy after the cataloging committee revisited the cataloging policy and did such a great job specifying, giving more information than was in the previous policies. And I think this is a byproduct of the consortium growing, and we just need to be more specific about more aspects of the policy. The changes are things like the circulation committee, who's going to be on this circulation committee. We did not request that, we did not specify that member libraries have to have someone in a meeting every quarter. Instead, we went with a minimum of 10 times a year so that.
Hey, I want that.
Wait a minute, I'm reading this and my mind just went 10 times a year. I don't think that's what we said.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I think it should be 4 times a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be 4 times a year so that it's, once a quarter. But if you just really had a terrible third quarter, as long as you attended twice in a different quarter, you'd be okay. So, and we included something about corrective action since that's what's going on the MOU. And there was something in there also about the, in the cataloging committee, cataloging policy. And it's just real general what it says about corrective action. It's just, the MOU tells you what'll happen if you don't follow what the policies are. So,
am I correct in thinking we have not adopted the MOU yet?
Right.
Okay.
So this is the new Missouri Evergreen circulation policy. And if I will just change the 10 to 4, we do just have 4 quarters in a year, right? 4 quarters, that makes sense. Can we adopt the new circulation policy? And it kind of has to go in hand with the materials handling best practices, because part of the policy is that member libraries will abide by the Missouri Evergreen circulation policy and the materials handling best practices. That's part of the policy. So the best practices is kind of like the amendments to the Constitution. And we also expanded the best practicing, best materials handling to cover lost items, items in transit. It's still handling materials, and this is a very bad thing for people to leave items in their transit list forever and ever and ever. Those are materials then that are not available to patrons and libraries that don't take care of their transit lists are not being good stewards of their materials for their patrons and anybody else. It's like leaving things in a status of canceled transit. They're not, those materials are not available to anybody. So I will say that since sending out a monthly canceled transit list, libraries have been taking care of those items, and I've been seeing improvement. Fewer items are just sitting around in that status. So I think it just was the people weren't aware that this was happening. Okay, I'll be quiet now. If anybody has any questions about the circulation policy, the new circulation policy, or the materials handling best practices, let me know. Otherwise, I would like to propose adopting the new documents with that one edit.
I'm not sure you have to get a approval on the best practices document, only the policy.
Okay, even though the policy says that they're going to follow the handling, the materials handling best practices?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe the policy is the only thing that requires a vote. And since it's come out of committee, it doesn't require a second. So I think if there's no further discussion, we can just take a vote.
Almost.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? No? And Diane, do I have the next meeting dates for the circulation committee correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
And I do set those things up a month just when it's time for the meeting, because life is so uncertain.
Okay. Okay. So if there's no further discussion for Diane, I will see if there's anyone on the call from Amigos that would like to address the membership.
I think they had a conference that started today, so they may
Okay.
not be available.
And then if there's any other matters the state library would like to discuss this morning?
Did Kyle have anything for the reports committee?
No, he emailed me before the meeting and said that there was nothing from the reports committee.
Oh, and didn't Steve want to say something about strategic planning committee thing?
Yeah.
I did.
Yes.
I just want to give everybody a really quick update. So the strategic planning committee involves the people we have on that right now is Pam Withrow, who's the assistant director at Jeffco, Jefferson County Library, Sue Sostak with Poplar Bluff, the director there, Teresa Tidwell at Crothersville, the director, and then myself. And Tanya Shelton Council, who is the director at Trails, is leaving. And so she's going to be leaving our committee in early March. I've talked to a few different library directors and librarians about filling her spot on the committee. And Candy Warren from Livingston County is going to replace Tanya on the committee. So we've been working very hard, meeting every week since the beginning of the year. Actually, I think we met in December for the first time. And the three things that we are doing right now is we each took 4 consortia from around the country, Evergreen consortia, and we surveyed them with an extensive survey of about 36 questions. And then we collected that information. We're in the process of finishing that stage up. And we are putting all that into spreadsheets so that we can look at the information. It's very interesting. And some of them actually were interested in it, in getting all the data themselves. They wanted to see the results because they thought it would be so helpful to them. So we collected that information first. So the questions involve everything from governance to funding to, fees to strategic planning, everything we could possibly think to ask them. We asked these consortia. I think there's probably 20 that we are surveying around the country, and some in Canada, a couple in Canada, actually. Then the next step of our process is that we are surveying the membership, and you might have all received a SurveyMonkey survey that we sent out. Currently, we have received 38 surveys back so far out of the 52 members. And the survey deadline is a week from today. So I am going to assume everyone on this call has already completed it. But if you haven't, we really would appreciate you getting the survey in within the next week. I will be sending out a reminder email today to remind everyone to try to have it submitted on time next week. And this is going to be very valuable information too, asking people everything from how happy they are with the current fees, to problems with Evergreen, to migration issues they experienced, to things they want to see Evergreen offer and do in the future, to how they feel about the statewide courier. I mean, we covered, I can't remember another 30 something questions, I believe. And because we did it in SurveyMonkey, it's tabulating it very nicely for us in pie charts and things and graphs. We do have some open-ended questions, as you might have seen, and we are tabulating that information too. So that's our second step. And then the final step of data collection that we're engaging in is going to be, we're meeting here in another week, I think, to begin the process of creating a survey for non-member libraries in Missouri. And that survey will go out in SurveyMonkey also probably in the month of March. Throughout the month of March, they will have the opportunity to answer that. It will be all the 100 libraries that do not belong to Evergreen, asking them, their perception of Evergreen, why they don't want to join, what their issues with not joining are, etc. And so we're going to get that information too. Once we get all the data from these 3 sources, then we will begin analyzing the data and creating a strategic plan based on what the data shows us the members are wanting, and a strategic plan showing us what we need to address to be able to attract new members, and as well as trying to incorporate things that other consortia around the country that have Evergreen are doing. And so that's our plan, and that's my update. Did anybody have any questions about that? We hope to get the plan done by early summer. We were really hoping that it could be used to give information to the state library regarding for their new grant. I'm not sure if we'll be able to do that or not. It depends on the timeline. I don't know exactly when the deadline would be to get that information to them, but we're hoping probably by May, to have some really good information at least put together for a draft of a strategic plan. So hopefully that will not be too late, but either way, it will guide. I think the information will be really good about guiding the consortium in terms of adding staff perhaps, or addressing different issues, software development once we have a development fund, things like that. I think that information will be very, very valuable in trying to make those decisions. We're working very hard, and we hope the product is going to be good. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Steve. And I think we had one other person that wanted to talk this morning. Jane, the new director at Mala, are you still on the?
I am still on.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. So my name's Jane Mulvihill-Jones. I'm the new executive director, and I replaced Mickey, who retired at the end of December. So I just wanted to kind of meet all of you informally on this Zoom. Sorry, I'm having glare problems where my computer is, so you have to look at my Christmas photo there. So just a reminder that the LSTA grant from the state library pays a portion, and it depends on your size of your library, of your courier service, and then many of you add on time, other days with us. And so going forward, when we start adding new libraries, we probably need to stress the importance of that. I think some of the new libraries we're having a little bit of problems with not realizing how much their circuit is going to increase. So, and how much courier stuff they're going to get. So we just want to keep reminding people that Evergreen libraries do a lot of circulation and a lot of couriers. So I just wanted, but almost everybody on this call is doing great. So, and we still have I think you guys are some of the branches that are having the weird things. So I just wanted to explain. I know Linda put it out in our newsletter about the materials that are showing up from the post office. So one of the courier drivers, I don't know if it was Joplin or Springfield, because it was before I started, decided it would be a brilliant idea to put some of the items instead of where they normally put them. He put them in either a big bin or some postal service thing. And then I think he had the intent of I'm just going to store them there and I'll get them tomorrow. And the post office, of course, took it away. And so since they weren't postal items, they go to Indianapolis to the dead letter drop. And then the postal service is trying to figure out where they go. So some people have gotten them at their house. Some people have gotten them at another library. And this happened a couple of times. And so if you're a library that gets something weird from the post office and it's yours or somebody else's, but it's in some bag that looks like this could have been part of it, if you would just let us know, just email Linda at Mala. She's keeping track of it. We're trying to track as many down. We think we're maybe at the end of it, but this person, of course, no longer works for the courier driver, Henry. I think he had other problems besides this, perhaps. So we don't really know how many days he did this or how many items he did it for. So they have been trickling in since, I don't know, sometime in December, I think. And they're still showing up. So I have no way of knowing, none of us have any way of knowing. So I apologize again for his, well, actually just stupidity. And so we are tracking them down. So hopefully they're not on that list that Diane talked about, the transit list missing, because some of that may be this. So, and then the other thing I wanted to just let you know that we do programming, and we have a program coming up in February, later this month on the 24th, about resilience, cultivating resilience and well-being in the year of COVID. That would be great. These are all Zoom. And then you get a link afterwards if you were unable to attend the entire time. And then we have one on March 31st, improving customer service, learning to create gender inclusive libraries. So I just wanted to invite you to attend. We have really great presenters. And if you go to our website, You'll get to see who's presenting, and they all last about an hour. So I'm so excited to be part of you. I've been hearing about Evergreen. I'm a longtime librarian in the Kansas City area. So once COVID is over, I hope to come out and venture out to the state and see lots of our actual people on the ground. So, but right now we have to do with Zoom. So any questions, I'm happy to answer, or I'll try to answer. This is my 4th week. So
Jane, this is Steve Campbell. So
hi.
I hope to meet you soon too, once COVID is over, hopefully soon. I was just wondering, is there any cost being pushed off to the members? I know that was an original concern from when I talked to Carrie Klein down at Newton County Neosho Library when this first happened. She had just joined Evergreen, and of course, coincidentally, the biggest problem was happening down there. And I was just curious, are any of the members being charged for the postage to get those items back to their libraries?
They should not be. I have not heard that they are. So if you would, if you hear that they are.
No, I have not. I was just making,
okay.
That was a question she had at the time when this first happened. And I was like, I didn't have an answer for her.
I don't think so. But if anybody hears this, because, we're kind of a little removed from some of you guys talk amongst yourselves and we don't know. So if you hear of it, just have them shoot us an email. And we'll pass that on to Henry.
You think all the items will eventually be recovered?
That I think they have a pretty good return rate on those kind of things if they can figure out the library. So if the books have, an address on them, or they have the sticker on the mala bag, I think they're getting good luck getting them back.
Okay, I know a lot of the smaller libraries that, when they lose even a few items, that's a cost burden for them to have to replace those. So I'm hoping that everybody gets theirs back. If not, I don't know who's responsible for that. Of course, I don't know if the post office would actually pony up money. I doubt it.
Right. And unfortunately, we will never know what was lost. So there's no way of knowing if something was lost.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
In this fiasco, or just in a, general missing items. So yeah, it was a weird thing to have happen on like my second day. Well, the first day was the insurrection at the Capitol, was my first day of work. And then on Thursday and Friday of that week, they're like, oh, and we have this crazy thing going on. It's like, great, where have I landed? So
I find this so interesting because before Henry, we used First Choice, and we used mail totes. I mean, that's what we used, was mail totes going across, the state so often.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They put the kibosh on that, which makes perfect sense. But I'm talking, we used First Choice for years and years, and 10 plus years, it was USPS mail crates. So I hate that this happened.
Yeah, I had no idea, because the post office is very unhappy that, that it was put in a mail tote. So yeah, that's crazy. I hadn't heard that.
One more thing. I will say that 99% of our stuff arrives. It's beautiful. It's on time. So I don't want to come on and just bring another complaint. But there was something else weird that happened. At North Kansas City, got a box that was sealed up, and it had items from multiple libraries in it. I haven't heard that from any other library. Anybody else in this meeting have that happen? Okay, I did talk to Linda about it, and she was going to look into it, because
that seems very
don't want to think that at a warehouse somewhere somebody's opening the bags and resorting things.
They should not be. And Carl is our contact person. He's kind of head of all the Henry things, and so Linda's in daily contact with them. So if you've talked to Linda, then I'll check back with her later this afternoon and see who. I can't tell who was talking. So who had this problem?
Scenic. It was North Kansas City.
Okay.
North Kansas City contacted me about it. It's obviously a one-off, because nobody else has ever said anything like that. But it was upsetting enough that I contacted Linda about it.
Okay, good. So yeah, that's crazy. So I think what we're kind of determining is they're having some turnover issues, either temporarily because of COVID or permanently because of COVID. So we're getting some routes that are being run by a substitute. So if you ever have weird things on our website, there's a place you can just send a little note if you don't want to send Linda one directly or me one directly. And then all of us in the office see it, just to know, because sometimes they're going to the wrong door. And when we pursue that, it seems to be it's a temporary driver because the regular driver's out due to COVID. But we want to bring this to their attention so that they can do a little better job training their temp drivers.
Oregon said something in the chat about receiving a whole box for a different library. That's not exactly the situation we're talking about now, because I'm sure all of us receive wrong things all the time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. What Diane is talking about is it seemed like at the warehouse, things from different bags went into one box and were sent to a location,
which was not any of their stuff. So yeah, that's strange. But so Oregon needs to just let us know that again, because that's probably, it's either an error, a regular driver error or that, but we can't track it down and we can't get credit for it if we can't notify Henry in a timely manner. So just any kind of weird things happen, just jump on our website, report that, and you can give Linda a call or myself a call. We'll try to track it down and get, we are literally have nonstop communication with Henry pretty much all morning long, every morning. By afternoon, we're kind of pretty much wrapped up, but yeah, we want to get things to the right places and we want to track down. And it's easier to find out who was the driver when it's the day of where the problem was. So.
Should we not be seeing any kind of U.S. mail totes at all with our courier drivers?
You should not, no, they should not be using U.S. mail totes. So if you're having a tote shortage, yeah, we ordered like 500 new totes and sent them out to all over the state. If you need totes, again, let Linda know or send me an email and I'll pass it on to her. I don't know where we are in the status of how many totes are where. And on the flip side, if you have a lot of totes at your location, if you could just send them with the driver, that would be great. We got a call from Colorado yesterday that they're missing a bunch of I think their totes are red, and we didn't have any in the office. So we're trying to help them out, find out where those red totes might be. So if you have any of those, send them with the driver.
Any other questions for Jane? Thank you, Jane, so much for
You're welcome. And
checking in with us.
Yeah, I hope to see you guys often at these meetings because it's a great opportunity for me to hear what all these things. So this is great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Are there any other discussion points that need to come before the membership this morning?
Shannon, just real quickly, this is Kyle from from Trails and the chair of the reports committee. I wasn't on the agenda, but I did want to just kind of throw something out there since Steve alluded to people being pretty unhappy with the reports module, which I 100% understand. I just do want to reiterate that the reports committee is trying to approach some of these issues from kind of a training and education perspective. Up until recently, development was about the only other option that we would have to address that, and it wasn't really available to us. I'm hoping that becomes the case and we can actually address some more of the concerns that everybody has. But just, I wanted to encourage everyone, please don't suffer in silence. If you have a frustration and even if you're not sure if it can be actually addressed by something that we're doing in the reports committee, please do reach out to me or another member of the committee so that as we have some of these discussions And we have planned discussions with Equinox to discuss some things that they're looking into as far as future development opportunities or initiatives that they want to undertake. As we're looking at those, if I know what people are struggling with, it'll be much easier for me to be able to communicate the things that we want to address with future development. So please let me know.
Our survey, this is Steve, our survey did not drill down deep enough to ask for specific problems with the reporting module.
Right.
And I'll be happy to show you the survey results once we finish them up next week. So you could look at the stuff related to the, what do you call it, the reports module. But I would like to say that I think you've done a fantastic job with the reports committee over the last few years. And I appreciate all your hard work, and I'm sad to hear that people are still having issues with it, even though your committee's been doing a lot of hard work. I think it's just inherent to the deficiencies of the reports module programming. It has nothing really to do with anything you could have done more about it, you know?
Of course. Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. And something that to give you all credit, the strategic planning committee did share that survey with all the committees. And after some of those results were brought to my attention, I kind of kicked myself for not maybe putting in some qualitative or suggesting some qualitative questions to follow up on some of those reporting satisfaction questions, so that maybe we could get a little bit more detail. But yes.
If you want to work with me, I'd be happy to work with you on. It might not be right away because we just did this survey, but it'd be very easy for, to create another Survey Monkey specifically to the reports module and send it out to the members, the directors. I'd be happy to work with you on that if you wanted to.
That I appreciate that. I have no problem putting something like that together as well. I actually intended to talk with the reports committee later today about doing that very thing. So yeah, I know you've already got a lot of involvement in a lot of other things.
Yeah,
so
I don't have to. I was just willing to help if you needed me. It sounds like
Yeah.
you can do. I mean, obviously you can do it on your own, but I would be happy to help you if you need me. But if not, I think that'd be great to survey them on the specifics of those problems. You know.
Yep, I agree 100%. But thank you for the offer.
The training that Equinox offered free when we were all on lockdown, I think that's when that training was. It's all running together. But Equinox gave us some free training, and the training that they did on reports was really good. I knew something, and what they pointed out tipped me over the edge so that I feel much more confident editing reports myself now. So I just wanted to put that out there, that if you have the right training, and anytime I have a question, Kyle and his people clear it up for me. It's like night and day. I don't know. I can't give you the right metaphor for it, that it just opened up what reports is. So
Yeah, it's certainly daunting from the beginning, and it's something that migrating libraries often struggle with. So we do try to touch base with them multiple times throughout the migration to make sure that everything is going well. Yeah, it's not impossible, but it certainly could be easier as well. Again, I think development may be part of the answer to those early stumbling blocks that people happen upon.
I also wanted to mention really quick that Kyle has done an amazing job with the reports committee. This is another committee that is super small. It's too small. We could use more help. It's one of those things where, just a handful of people are trying to help, the consortium, and it's rough sometimes. And of course, Kyle is the one that shoulders most of it because he knows the most. Again, the committee could be bigger.
Yes, thank you for putting that call out for me, Kate. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kyle. Is there anyone else that has anything they'd like to discuss this morning? If not, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is that Tony?
I'll second that, Steve.
Okay, perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.